He stole £5,000 from me. 5,000. Money I had scraped together working double shifts, sometimes triple shifts, while going to university full-time. And you know what he spent it on? Game consoles, gadgets, a brand new TV for himself and the woman he'd been cheating on me with. The bank couldn't help me. The police couldn't help me. Everyone told me to just let it go. So I did something better. I spent exactly £8.50 and watched his entire world collapse. A few months passed. Then his forum posts changed. The boasting stopped. In its place, panic. Frantic questions about a court summons. What did it mean? What should he do? She read every post. She didn't comment. She just watched. One of his online friends, helpfully, catastrophically, advised him not to show up to the court date. The logic, apparently, was that they couldn't proceed without him present. This is not how civil court works. In reality, failing to appear is one of the worst decisions a defendant can make. The judge doesn't wait. The case proceeds. Judgment is entered against you by default. She knew this. She said nothing. The court date came and went. Weeks later, new photos appeared on his forum profile. His flat, the one funded by her savings, photographed in a state of almost complete emptiness. The bailiffs had visited. Every console, every game, every television, every gadget he had bragged about, gone, taken to satisfy the judgment against him. And it didn't stop there. He now had multiple CCJs, county court judgments, attached to his name. In the UK, a CCJ is serious. It damages your credit history significantly. Basic bank accounts become your only option. Credit cards, loans, mortgages, essentially unreachable. Many landlords won't touch tenants with CCJs. Entire sectors of employment, particularly anything in finance, become closed doors. The side chick, it turned out, had been attracted to the lifestyle. When the lifestyle evaporated, when there was nothing left but an empty flat and a man with a court record, she left. He called her, begged for advice. She told him to F off. She never got her £5,000 back. She didn't need to. There's something profound in this story, and I want you to sit with it for a second. She didn't lie. She didn't cheat. She didn't break a single law. She used knowledge she had earned, patience she had developed, and £8.50 that she spent with surgical precision. The system that failed to protect her became the instrument of her justice. He thought the clock was almost up. Turns out, she was the one controlling the clock. Karma, they say, doesn't always arrive on schedule. Sometimes it needs a little help from someone who knows exactly how debt collection works. If this story left you feeling that rare, deeply satisfying sense of justice actually served, smash that like button and drop a comment below. I want to know, what is the most satisfying piece of karma you've ever witnessed, delivered by the universe, or helped along by someone who'd had enough? Tell me everything. And if you're new here and you want more stories exactly like this, real people, real wrongs, real reckonings, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We've got plenty more where this came from. Until next time, stay smart, stay patient. And remember, sometimes the best revenge really does cost less than a tenner. Let's go back to the beginning. She was a university student, smart, driven, the kind of person who maps out her future and actually follows through. When she met him, she thought she'd found someone cut from the same cloth. He was 26. Mature, she thought. Experienced. He talked about entrepreneurship, about building something real. He was charming and attentive in that way that makes you feel like the most important person in the room. In the early days, he really was all of that. He was working, studying, surprising her with thoughtful gestures. She fell for him. Genuinely, deeply fell for him. And why wouldn't she? Everything he showed her was exactly what she was looking for. But slowly, and this is the insidious part, things started to shift. It wasn't dramatic at first. He started skipping a lecture here, a seminar there, easy enough to explain away. Stress, maybe. A rough patch. She told herself that. She wanted to believe that, because when you love someone, you extend grace. You give them the benefit of the doubt. You hold on. Then the skipping became routine. Then he stopped going altogether. The flat they shared started to feel like her responsibility. Dishes piled up, she washed them. Laundry stacked up, she did it. Cleaning, groceries, admin, all of it, hers. She'd come home after a 10-hour shift and a 4-hour study session to find him exactly where she'd left him that morning. Planted on the sofa, controller in hand, eyes glazed over the screen. She'd ask. He'd promise. Nothing changed. Then he lost his job. Not laid off, fired. Too many no-shows. His employer had simply had enough. And here is where it gets important, because this is when the dynamic became genuinely dangerous. She started picking up extra shifts to cover the rent, then double shifts, then triple shifts, working herself to exhaustion while attending lectures and cramming for exams because one of them had to keep the lights on. She was running on fumes, and he was running up the electric bill playing Xbox. She later learned, much later, that this was a pattern for him. He'd find something new, throw himself into it with passionate intensity, make everyone around him believe this time is different, and then the novelty would wear off, the effort would feel like too much, and he'd drift back into inertia. University, relationships, jobs. It was a cycle. She hadn't been the first person to carry him. She just didn't know that yet. She held on longer than she should have. She knows that now. But hope is a powerful thing when you're emotionally invested. She kept waiting for him to snap out of it, to remember who he used to be, to try. Then she found out about the other woman. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Not immediately. There's a particular kind of shock that doesn't feel like shock at first. It feels like stillness. Like every thought in your head suddenly going very, very quiet. She threw him out. The next morning, she woke up and the full weight of everything hit her at once. And somewhere in that fog of exhaustion and heartbreak, a thought surfaced. The joint savings account. She checked her phone. The balance was 0. He had cleaned it out. Every penny. Just over £5,000, the vast majority of it her money, saved pound by pound across years of hard work. Gone. Transferred. While she was still reeling from the cheating, he had already moved into a new flat with his girlfriend, furnished courtesy of funds he had never earned. She called the bank. They were sympathetic but firm. He was an authorized account holder. There was nothing they could do. She called the police. Same answer. Joint account. No criminal offense. They mentioned civil court, then gently pointed out that legal fees would likely eclipse whatever she recovered. Translation: you won't win, and it'll cost you to lose. She sat with that for a while. The helplessness of it. The injustice of it. Imagine working until your feet ache, skipping meals to save, building something modest but yours, and having it taken by someone who contributed almost nothing, who you had carried for months, who repaid your loyalty with betrayal and theft. Then she saw his posts. He was on the same forums he'd always haunted, and he wasn't lying low or keeping quiet. He was boasting. New gaming PC, new console, new television, new gadgets, photographed and posted online with the kind of pride that made her stomach turn. Every item bought with her money, flaunted publicly, brazenly. That was the moment the sadness curdled into something sharper. Now, here's where her story becomes remarkable. During her university summers, she had temped at a debt collection agency. Unglamorous work. She'll be the first to tell you that. But it paid well, and it gave her an education in how debt actually works. Specifically, in the United Kingdom, something called statute barring. In the UK, creditors have roughly 6 years to pursue a debt through legal channels. After that window closes, the debt becomes statute barred, still technically owed, but legally unenforceable. No bailiffs, no court orders, nothing. It just fades away. Her ex knew all about this. He was proud of it, actually. He'd accumulated debt years earlier and had spent the intervening time carefully dodging it, never paying, never acknowledging, running down the clock. He was months away from statute-barred status. He thought he was about to get away with it completely. What he didn't know, what most people don't know, is that making any payment at all resets the clock entirely. Even £1. The 6-year countdown starts over from 0. She'd had helped him manage his debts during the relationship. She had the paperwork. She had the creditor details, the account references, all of it. She had previously used that knowledge to protect him. Now she picked up the phone. She was careful, deliberate. She called each creditor and was completely transparent. She identified herself as a friend making a payment on his behalf. She did not impersonate him. That would have been fraud, and she had no interest in doing anything illegal. She didn't need to. The creditors couldn't discuss the account details with her, but they could absolutely accept payment. £1 here, £1 there. One creditor had a minimum payment of £1.50. Total spend, £8.50. She also provided his new address, his and his girlfriend's flat, along with his parents' address as a secondary contact. She knew from her time in collections that they couldn't officially update the address based on her call alone, but she also knew those addresses would be noted, flagged, cross-referenced against his name in their systems. If anything connected, the address would update automatically. She put the phone down, made a cup of tea, and waited. If you've ever felt powerless against a system that was rigged from the start, if you've ever watched someone in authority abuse their position and thought somebody needs to stop this, then this story is going to hit you somewhere deep. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and get comfortable. Because what this woman pulled off is nothing short of legendary.